Are you looking for a unique way to reach your audience? Open Fortune offers an innovative approach to advertising by placing your brand message inside fortune cookies. Yep, you heard me, reaching 99% of US zip codes through a network of 47,000 restaurants. It's a memorable and effective way to connect with consumers at a moment when they're most receptive. So check out Open Fortune, and thank you for making today's episode possible. Today, we're thrilled to be welcomed by Randi Stipes, an accomplished marketing leader and the current CMO of the Weather Company. Before stepping into her transformative role at the Weather Company, Randi built a rich career shaping content strategies and leading marketing initiatives. She served as Vice President of Client Solutions at the Weather Channel, where she developed award-winning solutions across industries like pharma, automotive, and CPG by leveraging data to drive consumer connections. Earlier in her career, she was pivotal in launching digital platforms, including groundbreaking projects like creating and managing some of the first local television websites and introducing new ways for media outlets to engage audiences. Her journey has taken her from managing digital news operations at ABC affiliates to leading content strategy teams at Cox Enterprises. These experiences have made her an expert in emerging content, technology, and storytelling to create meaningful consumer engagement. When I got the email from her that she was coming on the show, I was so stoked. So thank you, Randi, for making today possible. So stoked to get into your story.
David, Carlo, thank you for having me. And by the way, can you call my parents and maybe read that to them? And
yeah,
it might help them better understand what I do for a living.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot me their email, and I'll write them or their address. We'll write a postcard and get it over there, snail mail.
Randi, after an intro like that, you have to dust your shoulders off, girl. Like that was oof.
I mean, you made me sound pretty good, so thanks for that. I'm going to let you.
That's my job. So I'm glad I did all right. So Randi, talk to me about young Randi when she was growing up, right? What did she want to be when she grew up, right? What was she interested in? All that jazz.
Yeah. Oh gosh, young Randi. Are you suggesting I'm not young Randi now?
Oh, like baby Randi.
Young, the earlier version,
Younger. Yeah, I'm happy to. Listen, I did not grow up with dreams of being a marketer. From a young age, actually, it was my dream to be a broadcast journalist. So, I was a child of the 70s and the 80s. I had a front row seat to seeing women like Barbara Walters and Connie Chung, Diane Sawyer. I'm probably already dating myself with those references for some of your listeners, but they were changing the face of TV news. They were really the trailblazers. And I watched them, and here they were, meeting interesting people. They were commanding a room. People listened to them. And I think what was so interesting to me is that I saw that they were in a profession where they had the power to influence. Little did I know, those are all things that are really essential in marketing. But nonetheless, I found that inspiring. And I thought, listen, I want to do that. And so I was incredibly disciplined growing up. I suppose I have my parents to thank for that. I did all the right things. My first job, paid job at a school was at an ABC affiliate in Sacramento, California. I wasn't on the air, not even close, complete, junior level position, but I was working in a newsroom and I had my foot in the door. And it was there, and I'm happy to elaborate, but it was there that really, my career ended up taking shape, and I ended up taking a detour and going in a very different direction than what I had studied for and what I had interned for. Happy to elaborate.
Yeah, and what direction was that?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I'm working in the newsroom, and let me just give you some context. This was, the mid 90s. So the internet was not pervasive. My senior year in college was the first year I actually had an email address. So flashback to those days. And I am probably the most junior level person on the team. And so anything kind of new and experimental, they were give it to the new girl, give it to the young girl. Condescending in hindsight, but nonetheless, a fabulous opportunity when the news director said, I need you to figure out how to create a presence for us, how to create a website. We need to be, everyone called it the World Wide Web then. We need to be on the World Wide Web and create a website so that if people miss the news, if they miss the live broadcast, they have an opportunity to go back and get the information online. And I thought, oh, sure, yeah, I know how to do that. And by the way, like I didn't take courses for that. That's not part of my master plan. But I went to a brick and mortar bookstore because that's what you did at the time. I went to Barnes and Noble. And do you all remember the series, the Dummies books, like Anything for Dummies? You remember those?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I bought HTML for Dummies. And
you were coding?
I was coding.
Yes.
I was coding. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but with the help of HTML for Dummies, which I still have in my bookcase somewhere, and I enlisted the help from, if you remember the guy's name, Carl, one of the very kind and brilliant engineers at the TV station who was like a coder in his basement in his spare time. Flash forward, and I launched the TV station's website. It was the first in the market. It was really at the time, like now it seems very commonplace, but at the time considered pretty revolutionary. And it fundamentally changed the trajectory of my career from going from one form of journalism, broadcast journalism, into the online and digital arena.
And what sparked your passion for marketing and advertising after that? Was that the moment?
It really wasn't. You're probably wondering, like, what in the world? Like, how did you go from there to a CMO? A little bit more about my journey. So I went on to go and do that for a variety of TV stations. I sort of found my sweet spot. I then took a little bit of a life detour, and I did something that at the time felt like career suicide to me, but it was a life choice. So I quit my job. And again, I felt like I was in this pioneering place, but I quit my job. And I was the cliche who followed the guy across country. It worked. Like I dropped everything for the guy. It worked out. We've been happily married for over 20 years.
There you go.
But really, I share that point in the journey because it ultimately brought me to a new market. It brought me to, had been living in California nearly my entire life, and it brought me to Atlanta. And I had a great opportunity to work for several brands in Atlanta. But ultimately, what it did was bring me to, at that time, the Weather Channel. And I was hired at the Weather Channel. The first part of my tenure was really still like I was doing some writing, some content, and I was a product manager. So I went from very much from journalism to product. And what sparked my interest in marketing, I'm going to give you another story here. This is a very kind of long.
Yes, please. More stories.
But I'll give you the story because again, marketing wasn't really on my radar. The only experience and exposure I had to marketing was because I was creating products and had to work with our marketing team to ensure that we were bringing them to market, that we were bringing them to consumers in an interesting and compelling way. And so I had a role in that, but it wasn't my subject matter expertise. So how I ultimately got into marketing is that someone saw something in me that I didn't necessarily see in myself. And it was a strange encounter. I am really late to work one morning. I'm pulling into the parking lot, like bat out of hell. You know, we've all been there. And I misjudged and I sideswiped the car, parked car. Like I'm that person that hit the parked car. Leave a note. Hey, hit your car. Don't know who you are. You can reach me at this number. And I run in, I tell security, and I bolt into my meeting. I later come to realize that not only had I hit I left out this beautiful brand new, like shiny red candy apple Corvette, it happened to belong to the chief revenue officer of the company, whom I had never met, like legend of a guy, right? But I had never met. And it was through our interactions where I met him by admitting that I had hit his car, come to learn he's an avid car collector. And it's through our
That's a
interaction,
great first impression.
right? Yeah. Hi, I'm the jerk that sideswiped your precious vehicle. And not only was he so kind in how he kind of dealt with that, but it got my foot in the door in a totally new part of the organization. He started talking to me about sales. He started talking to me about marketing. He was curious about what I was building. And he thought, I need you out from behind your desk and in front of customers because you as a product person are going to be able to sell your product far better than my sales team. No insults to the sellers out there, but it really needed to be a partnership. And it was another instance where someone gave me an opportunity, just like it was back in the newsroom when I was asked to build a website, that he kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. And it was at that point that I thought, I love product and I'll always have that experience and an appreciation for it. But I really want to be out talking with our customers. And that sort of catapulted me into a variety of ad sales marketing and more generalized marketing roles. So I would not recommend, don't hit your CRO's car in the parking lot.
Strategy.
Right? That's not the takeaway, guys.
I can't wait for the listener who's just sideswiping cars until they get a job.
Yeah, but listen, it worked out. And again, I'm really grateful because he saw something in me that I probably wouldn't have.
Sounds like a hell of a guy too.
Oh, just a prince.
Yeah. What's his name? We got to get him on the
What's
show.
his name?
Paul Eifeldano, if you are listening, I'd hit your car all over again.
There you go.
What a story for like a social post too. I'd hit your car all over again. I gotta say, Randy, I'd like to buy the movie rights to your movie on girl follows dream, follows guy across country, then
very main character.
This is good stuff.
This
is a good movie.
So what was when you end up starting to get it?
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's a rom-com movie. This is good.
So you end up getting your foot in the door with marketing, right? What is expectation versus reality when you start pivoting into that world and role?
The expectation was, at face value, seemed pretty simple. At that time, really, mobile was, I feel like, still somewhat of a nascent technology. The expectation was, how are we bringing our web products to market? We had already a very dominant brand, the Weather Channel, weather.com in particular, our flagship consumer property. My expectation, I think initially, was just, how do we continue to grow this powerhouse brand? The reality of it was that was at a time, I mentioned mobile, when mobile was really taking shape. And I think the reality is that we had to figure out how we were not only building a presence here, but how we were reaching consumers as they were starting to consume content in a lot of different places. And so the reality was figuring out how we can, how you reach people in this totally new kind of environment that was, still very much early days. And so it was a lot of trial and error in those days. It was also worth mentioning that the reality is that we have not only a consumer business with the Weather Channel, Weather Underground, Storm Radar, but we also have an enterprise portion of our business that people may not be as familiar with, the Weather Company. And so the solutions that we are bringing, not only consumers, but having to market to advertisers who are buying solutions across our properties. We are active in the aviation industry, powering more than 25,000 flights a day. The broadcast media space, we are now getting into the defense and government space because every industry needs weather. So the reality, more than anything else, is not only how we keep up kind of with consumer expectations, but how we're ensuring that we're also helping businesses make smarter decisions.
Sure. Yeah, and marketing is a funny thing, right? Because when you were a coder, right, or building those websites, it was very much like, this is how you do it. This is how you do it well. Read the book and put it and execute. Marketing's a lot softer skills. You don't know something's going to work before you try it. How did you learn, right? Who were you going to? What books were you reading? How did you,
what did you fail at?
yeah,
Right?
what, like, failing? How do you immerse yourself into marketing?
Yeah, listen, I'm a firm believer that you have got to surround yourself with people smarter than you. And I did that. Yes, we all still have to read or maybe listen now, right? Podcast being so dominant, but there's no dummies series out there that is going to teach us. I am still learning every day. It's continuous trial and error. And I think that's particularly true right now in the consumer space when we look at, I mentioned like pivoting from broadcast into digital. Then once you're in digital, like going through the mobile transformation. So I think, you can need to continue to test and learn. And I have had like no shortage of failures along the way. I think, first of all, I don't like to think of them as failures. I would rather think of them as setbacks because I think the word failure now tends to be pretty loaded. It shouldn't be. We should normalize and I think celebrate failures. But I think that failure sometimes tends to breed some self-loathing. So unless it's something really egregious, I truly believe that the only failure is if you haven't tried. But I'm happy to share a few examples of where we can call it a failure, we can call it a setback. Happy to share a few examples.
Yeah. I think just the number one that sticks out to you that you think would be valuable to everybody listening.
Yeah. So I had the great privilege, great fortune when the weather company was part of IBM. So earlier this year, I like to say we consciously uncoupled from IBM. We're now a standalone business. But in our time at IBM, where we were for about 7 years, I was fortunate to really have a dual role. I spent a few years leading brand advertising for IBM while still having a foot in weather. And prior to that, and this is getting to the failure, prior to that, I also had the great privilege of leading developer marketing. So I did not know the first thing about developer marketing when I was asked to take on this challenge, but my manager had great confidence in me at the time and thought I was up for the challenge. And so I went in there with my playbook, like ready to go. My playbook was for consumer marketing. And so we're making all of this great polished content. We're trying to reach our target through pretty traditional channels. Newsflash, like it just didn't work. And it didn't work because, do you know the first rule of developer marketing?
Enlighten us.
First rule of developer marketing is you don't market to developers. Like, you can't market in the traditional ways. They want it is far more grassroots. And it was a totally new target. And I hadn't done my homework. I was so eager to come in and make a good impression with the new team and to get results that I forgot the fundamentals. I forgot that it starts with really understanding your audience. Every marketer knows that that's where it begins. And so I had a pretty rocky start. But ultimately, again, like I look at it now in hindsight at the moment, like at that time, I thought it was a horrible failure, but I recognized it pretty quickly. And others around me also recognized it pretty quickly. And I think that's the thing about failures is that you identify the problem, you own it, which I did. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. You fix it through the help of a lot of people that are smarter than you and can hopefully round out your skills. I knew how to come in and lead a team. I knew how to enter new markets. I knew the leadership fundamentals. I knew how to navigate IBM at that time, but this was a new audience for me. And so building out the right, well-rounded team, they taught me. We taught each other. And in the moment, it kind of sucked. But in the end, I think our failures are ultimately how we learn. It's
Absolutely.
not right. It's not as rewarding when you knock it out of the park on your first try.
Yeah. And I appreciate you opening up about that, because a lot of our guests try to shield that, and it's really important that you learn from all these things. Netflix calls it sunshining failures, where they break down,
Yeah.
a failure, but talk about all the good that they learned from it. I'm curious, on the flip side, to toot your own horn. Was there a moment or a campaign that you ran that you were just knocked it out of the park and realized, really got the confidence that you were the right person for the job?
Oh gosh, it's so much easier for me to actually talk about my failures. By the way, before we move on to success, do you know what I heard recently that I just loved? Do you know? You heard the FAIL acronym? What it stands for?
I don't think so.
First attempt in learning.
Oh, I have heard that. Yes.
Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard that a while ago, and it just popped up recently, and I thought, you know what, we need to tattoo that, right?
I love that.
Anyway.
I love that. Actually, wait, before you go into success, I have one thing. So there's this common thread that I'm starting to hear, and it's that you've had people in your life, back at, I think it was KOVR, right, in Sacramento.
Wow,
and
well done. You did your homework.
And you have your CRO, I think it was Paul. I couldn't grab his last name, but you have these people that have seen something in you, and quote unquote given you a shot. But with that being said, you've taken that shot. I think a lot of people don't recognize the doors that are right in front of them. All they need to do is open and step through. So my first part of the question is, how do you recognize that? There's a lot of moments that we could all look back, those sliding doors, right? That you can say, that's my moment to lean in and take. One, do you have some keen insight of how you recognize those? And the second question is, on the same vein, it seems like you've had people that have also given you a lot of grace, right? And that with that learning lesson, that learning opportunity with the developer marketing, you fail fast, you fail up. But obviously some people can say, hey, no, you messed up, take a back seat, instead of let's learn and build off of this together. What is it about your relationships that you've built that you feel have led to that too? So it's the relationships you built with the people that gave you those chances, those shots, both in the opportunities and the learning experiences. So how did you build those relationships, and how did you develop the keen insight for those sliding door moments?
Yeah, I love that question. So one, I think how I build the relationships, and what I would encourage everyone to do, is you need to find your people, and you need to find your allies. And I don't think that they're necessarily the people that look like you and think like you and are necessarily in your function. I think it's important when I think about the relationships that I have been fortunate to develop. They're really cross-functional. They're with people that I feel like I can learn from, and hopefully in return, there's a reciprocity, and that I can provide value to them as well. That's what any good relationship is about. And so I think that's the first step. And then it's, you still have to show results. You still have to bring your A game to the table and kind of build up your bank, so that when you do have those missteps, someone is going to give you the benefit of the doubt. That's not going to happen repeatedly. Had I gone in and continued to make those kinds of missteps in my foray into developer marketing, I wouldn't have lasted very long. But I think having the equity in the bank and building the trust is ultimately what earns you the right to take those missteps.
I love that. That's a great point.
In terms of when to know, which path to take, I think, looking back, early in my career, it was really uncomfortable for me to do that. I don't know that I had a playbook or that there was like something specific that I was looking for. I think I was just looking for a shot. I was looking for an opportunity. And even though I had had my career kind of mapped out, or so I thought, I started to see very early that like when you take the step that might be that detour, that might be a little bit scary, it actually is what yields the most interesting thing. Also, by the way, they're not everything that I've done has been like, wow, that was a home run and I love it. But you also can gain better appreciation and understanding of what you don't like and what you're not good at and where you don't feel you're best suited. And so I think,
Totally.
right, it's some of that trial and error that also like I've wanted, even though I've been in this company now for 2 decades, one of the reasons I have stayed is because I've been given the opportunity to take on new challenges and play different roles and work with and learn from very different and diverse teams. So I think it's early in your career. I think it's having the courage to kind of take that unexpected step. And that ultimately builds your confidence. And so like at this stage in my career, instead of saying why would I do that? Now I think I have the experience to be like, why not?
Sure. And that also came from probably people empowering you as well, and leadership. And you touched on it before, but what is your leadership style, right? When you stepped in as the CMO, what were you looking to accomplish, and, how did you lead your team?
Yeah. So I think my team would probably describe me as tough but fair. I have pretty high expectations, but I also like to give my team, I like to give them a lot of room, and I like to give them a lot of rope. I think as a leader, it's my responsibility to set the vision, to set the agenda, to hopefully give people the tools to do their best work, and then get out of the way. Like if I can be there to remove obstacles for them and hopefully, just like people have done for me, identify opportunities that in turn are going to help them grow. That's when I feel like I'm at my best and when I'm best servicing the team. I think similarly, like what I've had to do, given the weather company business is so incredibly diverse. Again, I mentioned earlier that we serve a lot of different customers. We have a lot of different audiences. What I've really tried to do is create kind of roles within the team where people have great ownership, and they can really let their subject matter expertise shine, but then also while giving them exposure to other parts of the business so that they can become more well-rounded marketers.
Absolutely. And then when it comes to, and tough but fair is like a really nice way. Like, I think those are some of the best leaders where, there's the player coach who's like, I'm friends with everybody, and that's great. But sometimes that doesn't yield the best results. When you were coming into that role, what were the pain points of the company?
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about the pain points now, even, because I think those are more interesting.
Sure.
So again, we have the consumer part of our business and we have the enterprise part of our business. Let me start with consumer. So the Weather Channel, again, flagship consumer brand. The Weather Channel app is the most downloaded weather app. When you look across our broader consumer portfolio, we have more than 360 million people who come to us every single month. Carlo, you didn't hear that incorrectly.
How many?
More than 360 million people who come to us every month across our digital properties.
Those are unique visitors?
Correct.
I'm
not saying that to be like pound our chest. This isn't we're super proud of that. Okay, well, I'll do this for a minute. But I say that to just provide the context into some of the challenges. Now, having said that, how many weather apps do you think are out there in the universe?
In the universe, or ones that people actually pay attention to?
Oh, in the universe.
15.
David, what do you think?
You said, how many did you say, Carla?
I said 15. Like,
oh my God, way more.
Take the over.
Like I'm gonna say 2,500.
2,500?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, David, you're closer. So there's more than 10,000 weather apps out there.
Yeah, I knew that number. The number's astronomical, man.
So,
like me and you could make a weather app technically and have no. You know,
that's a good point. I'm thinking like one. In my mind, I'm still thinking of ones.
There's like 15 fortune cookie apps.
Yeah, that's just.
No, there's only one fortune cookie app. Come on, but
yeah, no. We don't have an app, but we're just talking about just like opening up a fortune cookie. Like there's like 15 places that you could be like, I want to open up a digital fortune cookie.
Yeah, that's a good point. So in my mind, and we can cut this out or keep it. Your call. But in my mind, there's 3. It's the Weather Channel. It's AccuWeather, and it's WeatherBug. Like you're using one of those 3.
And Apple and the weather.
Yeah, but that's not. I need more detail. Like I like the detail. You know. So
well, I'll debate the merits of those with you all day long. But I set this and I share the context on the volume because weather is becoming an increasingly crowded and commoditized space. And so when we look at our challenge on the consumer level, it's even though we do not have an awareness problem, we are blessed with like 97, 98% awareness of the Weather Channel brand. We need to continuously drive relevance and we need to drive preference. Weather's table stakes. You can get it a lot of places. So now really our challenge and what I think is the most fun part about our challenge and our job is how are we reaching people and appealing to them in new and interesting ways? How are we positioning our brand in places like TikTok? Not only having a presence on TikTok, but partnering with TikTok so that we're bringing weather to the platform. So there, on the consumer part of the business, the single greatest challenge we're trying to solve is how to stay relevant among a sea of options. On the enterprise part of our business, weather impacts everyone, right? Every industry. And so the greatest challenge is kind of, it's an embarrassment of riches, but it's still a challenge, is how do we remain focused as an organization to ensure that we are bringing meaningful products and services to the industries that are most dependent on weather, and particularly in the face of a changing climate. So it's really maintaining that focus and continuing to provide value to the industries that we need to super serve.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And how are you doing that? Because that's a tall task.
How are we maintaining the focus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are some marketing campaigns that are driving, like you said, TikTok, right? But that are driving not just awareness, but just, usage of this app.
Well, you were talking about the focus on the business side, right, Randy? Or you're talking about it on the consumer side?
I was talking about the focus on the business side, but let me share an example for how we're driving relevance and preference with a marketing campaign for the Weather Channel, because I think that's what people will be able to relate to most. So when we think about weather, again, it's a commoditized space. You can get weather in a variety of places. We know, though, that people are checking the weather for a very specific reason in mind, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. It's driving every decision that we make throughout the day, whether that's about what we're wearing, what we're buying, and our health. We know that more than 70% of our audience is coming to us on a daily basis to manage a health condition. And so taking these insights of like the fact that people are checking the weather for an explicit reason to manage something in their life, to help them make a more informed decision. We, earlier this year, launched a new brand platform for the Weather Channel. Anyone can talk about accuracy, and we are the most accurate forecaster, more than 3 times more likely to be accurate than the next greatest, the next provider, but everyone claims accuracy. We had to go beyond the basics, beyond the table stakes. And so with our new brand campaign, it was about how can we give people the information that enables them to live well, to live better. And that's what prompted Be a Force of Nature. And the kind of the ethos behind Be a Force of Nature is how are we enabling people to make the most of weather when it's great outside? And how are we enabling people to make the best of weather when it's pretty crappy outside? And so it's kind of appealing to people less in terms of their functional needs and appealing to people more from an emotional standpoint. That's what really drove the campaign and has been a lot of fun developing because you can probably appreciate, like, there's no shortage of stories we can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is so, so cool. And just like, yeah, the emotional marketing makes all the difference, right? Like, you're not just going to be like a bland brand that, people scroll by. Talk to me a little bit about, we got to know each other a little bit before the podcast as well, but just about your personal life, what you're proud of there, and, why you decided to move to Florida.
Oh, okay. Yes. So, I'll start with Florida. So California girl, born and raised, spent over 20 years in Atlanta, where the weather company is based. And Atlanta was really good to me and to my family personally and professionally. And like so many people, during COVID, we wanted to get out of the city. And I really wanted to be by the water and have kind of the safety during COVID, as well as just the overall peace and tranquility. And it prompted a move to Florida. I spend most of my time on a plane because I have teams in New York and in Atlanta, and like to spend as much time with them as possible. But I think to be at my best and the best possible leader for my team and for the business, in my spare time, I needed to be somewhere that was quiet and more tranquil, and where I could be outside and be Mary Poppins riding my bike to the grocery store versus spending so much time in my car. So it was a life choice, and it's been a great move. Also, though, I will add, it has given me a new level of empathy now, having gone through 2 hurricane seasons living in Florida. I watched from afar during 2 decades of like looking at storms and the impact that storms have on people, the anxiety that it causes before a storm, and then the devastation, as we all witnessed this year in particular with Hurricanes Helene and Milton here in the U.S. It's one thing to be sympathetic. It's another thing to actually live the life of your customer. And we were very fortunate, and we were spared, have been spared since we lived here. But packing the bags, making the hotel reservations, preparing to evacuate, it's definitely opened my eyes and given me a deeper appreciation. Probably annoyed my product teams and our meteorologists because it also sparked a lot of ideas on things that we can do to even better serve people who depend on us.
It's got to feel good, though, and that's a great point. When you're able to experience the feelings and the emotion tied with the product that you provide to your audience, like that's awesome. Like we've had that experience a couple times, and we love it. And in that situation, it allows you, I think, like you said, just ideate on the right messaging, the right types of products that you can build off of it. So many things, and it's a rare opportunity that you get that. But that's awesome. It's really cool.
Listen, I think, and we're very thoughtful. We're very careful about how we market to people. It is not about us. It needs to be about them. I believe that in any situation, by the way, right? Where we all need to be more customer obsessed, but particularly when there is life and death on the line, we are very thoughtful from a marketing standpoint. And actually, like I always say, marketing is our brand is product and product is brand. And so it's not only the insights on how we talk to people through our marketing campaigns, but it's revealed insights again on what do we do within our products to be more empathetic, knowing that so many people come to us to make the most critical decisions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's got to feel good too that, you know, your product is life-saving. Like in many cases, it absolutely is. Like that's awesome. You know,
Yeah.
you don't think about it. You know, I don't know the numbers, but I'd presume like 98% of the time it doesn't need to be that, right? But there's this small pieces of time where it is life-saving. And that's really cool that it has that capability.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you asked me what I'm proud of, and I'm proud of several things on a personal level, but I'm proud that I've been able to be part of an organization and a team that really does live its mission. Even though our business has continuously evolved over the past 40 years, our mission has been pretty steadfast, and that is to instill confidence, number one. You have to help people feel like you have to give them greater control and confidence. So instilling confidence, driving decisions, knowing that so many decisions that we make throughout the day are informed by the weather. And then the third part of our mission is how are we propelling the world? How are we ensuring that we're giving people the facts and the information that they need to not only make decisions about what they do today, but what they're going to do tomorrow, what they're going to do to ensure that our planet is in a different and hopefully better position for the next generation, given our climate is changing.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely.
I love those pillars. Going back to be a force of nature.
Yeah.
Like, brilliant. Like, I really, really like that message, that emotional tie-in to empowering people, no matter what day it is, to live their best life, right? Like, it connects. How do you even get there? Like, walk us through the process that led you guys over the course of whatever period of time, whatever rooms, to get to that point.
So as any marketer can appreciate, it starts by doing your research, looking at the competitive landscape, talking and understanding your customers, and coming up with a few concepts. I am really fortunate to, I think, work with the best creative team in the industry. I'm just going to put that out there. I've had the pleasure of working with many, and we have a phenomenal team in-house. I'm a big proponent that like you bring in partners and external agencies too. I think you need the right mix. But a big part of I think kind of the magic behind Be a Force of Nature is that this was homegrown. We did all of the quantitative and qualitative research and all the things that you're supposed to do when you're building a platform. A lot of testing because you don't launch these things lightly. But we really relied also on the gut and the instinct and the expertise of our creative team, of our brand marketing team. And a big part of it also of the development was getting the internal buy-in. This can't just be a marketing effort or it will die on the vine. A brand platform is very different from a campaign. So a big part of this was ensuring that we had buy-in across the organization, including, not only the editorial teams and our product teams who needed to bring the ethos of this into every touch point that we have with our audience, but I'm talking about the CFO. Like there's a CFO buy into this. Every marketer out there, by the way, hopefully your CFO is your BFF. But it was ensuring that it not only would land with our audience, but also land with all of our internal stakeholders so that everyone could collectively kind of rally behind this.
Amazing. Great job, Randi. That was
Randi,
awesome.
I have an awesome team. I will say that.
That's awesome. That's just really cool how you guys like formulate that process. And then you're right. Without that buy-in, you can't get everyone involved and behind it. Then it like you said, you need to have
really
everyone. It needs to be. They need to. I hate the term "drink the Kool-Aid" because that's not what it is. They just need to believe in it, right?
Sure.
Like that's what it's about.
I mean, isn't that what marketing ultimately is doing? Is creating a sense of belief, and that is, and like we are paid. I say all day long, like we're paid to influence people, and if we cannot exert that same influence internally. Like, same on us, right?
Yeah. Good point.
Absolutely.
Randy, tell us a little bit more, for us, the Weather Channel, it's, a lot of people think it's about prediction, right? It's about like what's coming next. Is that how you guys see it? Is it something else? Weather means a lot to different people. You talked about it earlier, how, the force of nature and having people be a part of that from an emotional standpoint. But what is the product to you all? Like, what do you see it internally, and how do you want the world to see it?
Yeah. So given that people can get weather data a lot of places, you can get the forecast a lot of places. You can only get the most accurate forecast one place. But the real value is not in the data itself. It's in the insights. It's in the intelligence that we can extract from the forecast. So let me just put this like in perspective. When we talk about the fact that weather influences so many aspects of people's lives and their decisions, let me just quantify this a little bit. Last year, Adobe released a study. You might be familiar with their digital economy index. And in the study, they showed that weather influenced an estimated $13.5 billion in e-commerce. That was last year alone. Like, that is what weather drove. That's more than Cyber Monday. And so when we think about the product for brands, we can help them understand weather's immense impact on consumer behavior, on their purchasing choices, on their emotion. We can extract that intelligence and give it to brands to either use to activate their campaigns. That alone, we can marry it with first-party data, and kind of correlate the buying trends that we're seeing with historical weather. We can bring third-party insights into that. The point is that the value is in the intelligence that we can extract from over 40 years of historical weather data to inform smarter, not only personal decisions for each of us, but smarter business decisions. And when we think about the role of a marketer, where I get totally excited and I geek out, is that at the end of the day, we're all being charged to drive business growth. Full stop. That's our job as marketers, is to drive growth. And if we can go ahead and not only bring those insights to our own craft, but bring them to our organization so that the broader organization can use insights to inform pricing decisions, merchandising, supply chain, then everyone wins.
Love it. That's brilliant. I guess, you don't think about it at first glance, but it's in the first party data. It's in the insights that can be gleaned and then shared back consumer.
And weather's privacy safe,
right.
Which is something, right? Like it's not only is it a predictive and personal signal, but it's a privacy forward signal, which should be at the top of every marketer's list.
It's a really good point. No GDPR and CCPI compliance.
Right.
Anyway, love it. Very cool.
We won't keep this in, but this is my girlfriend who is Mission Impossibling to get.
Sorry, I thought I was recording.
Mission Impossibling underneath.
Is she going? So they're at you're traveling right now to her
in Boston, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're in her parents'
Was she going behind the camera?
I love it.
She was underneath. She was literally like, I thought it was like a dog because like it was like I heard like crawling, and then I was like, wait, those are like some heavy like that sounds more than bigger than our dogs.
That's good.
And then it was like, yeah, and then it was Molly, and she did that twice. And then the first time we were recording, so like I didn't stop and like
Not true.
Oh my gosh,
spot up, but it
That's
was so funny.
early COVID days, early COVID
Yes,
days.
the guy in the toddler comes in and the all parents trying to let the kid out. Yeah.
I did a funny story, but it was like pre-COVID. I worked from home like 3 days a week, and me and my roommate, we had like a little office, and he was on a call, and I needed to grab something, so I started like army crawling, but like I was fully seen by everybody in the meeting, and nobody said anything, but he was like, "I appreciate the effort, but it was so much worse than just walking by." But anyway,
6 years ago, my daughter barged in my office, and I'm on a call and just puked on me. So I got you on that one.
Oh,
yeah.
you win. Oh.
Got you on that. I was like, what? Did this just happen? It happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but thankfully, never again.
Yeah. Well, let's get into a quick question round.
Yeah.
Okay.
Randy, you're gonna have some fun. And listen, no pressure here. Okay, there's no pressure. There's going to be a question in here that's either going to make me $100 richer or David $100 richer.
Oh, man. Okay.
Right?
Marty taking a bet on me here. This
it's kind of influenced by the weather sometimes, you know?
It is. It could be. Damn it, David. You just gave me the tea.
I'm coming into this from a totally unbiased.
All right, fresh.
Okay.
Fresh.
All right. One second. I'm just pulling this up. Okay. Great. I just had it. Sorry. I have a lot of browsers up.
You're good.
Sweet.
I'm nervous.
What do you think it's going to be? All right. Sweet. All right. So before we get into the quick question round of this amazing episode, got to give a big shout out to Open Fortune. As the media guru Gary Vaynerchuk once said, I only believe in 4 forms of media: influencer marketing, biddable media, the Super Bowl, and Open Fortune. By leveraging the simple yet impact medium of fortune cookies, you can engage customers across 99% of U.S. zip codes through a network of 47,000 restaurants. It's a direct, tangible, and creative way to leave a lasting impression on your audience. Shout out Open Fortune for making today's episode possible. All right, Randy, person you'd most want to sit down to dinner with, dead or alive?
My grandmother. I never had an opportunity to meet her.
Family ones are the best ones. Favorite city in the world?
Oh, Rome.
Favorite rom-com?
I've got to give a shout out to the OG, When Harry Met Sally.
Yep.
Nice.
Also, if you like Rome, I saw Gladiator 2 yesterday. It was actually very good. Yeah, very good.
I've heard great things by a lot of people.
It was good. It was good. It wasn't just like an actual, we'll cut this, but it wasn't actually just like, a money grab second movie. Best spot to eat in Florida?
Oh gosh, the food here is admittedly okay. I'll give the best spot to eat in Florida is my house, and I have nothing to do with it. My husband is an amazing cook.
Nice.
Is it okay to sleep with socks on?
Absolutely.
Oh. Randy,
How is that even a question?
Not okay. It's unacceptable.
Damn it. I knew we were tracking. I knew it.
Yeah, I felt it. As soon as you didn't, because it's either a quick absolutely not, or
that's exactly.
And
right.
I was like, you're dead in the water. You're so dead.
To be fair, I think I win 75% of the time.
Yeah. So this is like I'm recovering debt on this, which is great.
Is there a gender breakdown? I want all the data.
We might have to run that number.
Good question.
I'm gonna make a stupid post and just say like, I've recently found out 65% of women sleep with their socks on. It. This is what it taught me about B2B marketing.
I love it. I'll comment on that one.
I saw somebody who's like, I got married this weekend. Here's what it talked to me about B2B marketing. It's like, oh my God. All right. Anyway, in 40 years from now, what will people be nostalgic for?
Human connection.
Top 3 brands doing a great job now.
Patagonia, like forever, Hall of Fame, continue to live their values.
Yep.
Elf, love the way that they are challenger brand that has come in and kind of continues to transform the face of beauty. I love how they are appealing to the younger generation in a really daring and bold and thoughtful way. And I'll kind of put a dark horse in there. Workday, from a B2B perspective, I think is showing up in really interesting and original ways, kind of starting, going back to their Super Bowl presence, really strong and kind of making you reconsider their brand.
I love that. Everybody says liquid death, so it's nice to hear somebody who said something said something new. One thing people don't understand about your job is?
One thing that people don't understand about my job is that there is this thriving enterprise aspect to what we do. It's not just humans, all of us as consumers who are looking at the weather every day, but it's the businesses and the multitude of industries that we partner with to help them make smarter business decisions.
What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice I've been given is that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything.
I love that. That's wise words. And then worst advice you've ever been given?
Stand in the back and don't ask any questions.
Brutal. And then last question, in 10 years, where can we see you, Randi? Where can we catch you? What do you think you're going to be up to?
I don't exactly know where I'll be, but in 10 years, I certainly hope that I am impacting our planet or impacting society in a meaningful and lasting way.
Absolutely. Well, Randi, thank you so much for hopping on. That was absolutely awesome.
So good.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. Thank you both. You've been super generous with your time.